Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and today I am starting part 2 to a video series that I started like over a year ago, where I'm going to be reading books that have been selected for Reese Witherspoon's book club. I did already do this once before, like I mentioned, so I will have that video linked below, but I'm really excited to get into this and to do this again and to see if the books that are selected for Reese's book club are worth the hype. And I've got a pretty fun mix here of genres and how recently they were picked to be in the book club. So let's just go ahead and get right on into the books that I will be reading. First book is The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. This is a historical fiction that is centered around war times, I believe, and it looks like it's told in 2 different timelines, and we get a couple different perspectives following a couple different women back in that time, and it looks like it also has to do with spies. So we'll see what I think of this. I did just recently read a book that had to do with spies and didn't love it, so we'll see if this one does it better in my opinion. This was a book club pick back in July of 2017. It looks like it was actually her second ever book club pick, and it's always kind of intrigued me, to be honest. I haven't seen a whole lot of reviews or people's thoughts about it, but it's one that I see the cover all over the place, and I'm just curious to know if it's a historical fiction that I end up liking. And then I've got a second historical fiction here, Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. It sounds like this one also follows a couple different timelines and a couple different perspectives, but has to do with a Cuban-American woman who travels to Havana to learn a little bit more about her family and her heritage. This was Reese's pick in July of 2018. And then we've got a couple of thrillers that I'm really excited about. So first we've got The Last Mrs Parrish by Liv Constantine. I have had my eye on this book for a really long time. I've never tried any other thrillers by this author yet, but I would be intrigued to pick up more if I end up liking this. I truly know nothing about the plot, and I'm gonna keep it that way. This was the December of 2017 book club pick. And then the other thriller is actually a much more recent pick, The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I have seen this thriller everywhere. It's a Reese's book club pick. It was a book of the month pick a couple of months ago, and I just see the cover all over social media. So very interested to find out for myself if this is worth the hype or if it's just really great marketing for the book or what. This was the book club pick in May of this year. Again, because it's a thriller, I don't want to know really anything about the plot. And then the last book that I'm picking up is a romance, and it's 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This book was not on my radar at all until I saw Noelle talk about this on her channel, and she said she loved it and it was super emotional. I love emotional romances, so when she told me that she cried reading it, that was all I needed to hear. Sounds like this is some kind of, I don't know if it's second chance romance or what exactly the trope is, but sounds like these 2 characters had met like 15 years previously and had like a 1-week stand or 1-week relationship, and then didn't see each other for 15 years and are now getting back together. So very interested to dive in and to find out what is so emotional about this, and hopefully I love it and love the characters and love the romance. And that book was just the June book club pick for this year. So like I said, kind of a range. This may be a little bit of a roller coaster of a reading vlog, but hopefully there's at least one book that you're interested in possibly checking out in the future or just hearing my thoughts on. So I will go ahead and get into the reading portion of the vlog. I don't even know what order I'm going to read these books in, so I will just check in once I've started a book and once I have some thoughts to share. Okay, book 1 is done. I just finished The Alice Network. I picked this book first, actually because I thought it was going to be kind of a quick and shorter one. Little did I know that it was actually over 500 pages long and the pages were just super thin. But it ended up paying off because now I have one of the longest books you know, checked off right away, and I really, really liked it. This is a historical fiction, like I've mentioned. We are following two different perspectives. The first is from this woman named Charlie, who was in 1947. It's the aftermath of World War II, and she is searching for her cousin, who she doesn't know what happened to during the war. So she's basically trying to find her, going throughout Europe, and Charlie comes into contact with this woman named Eve. And Eve, during World War I and World War II, was a spy, and so we're following also her perspective from 1915 as she was living through the war and doing her spy duties. And basically Charlie's story and Eve's story kind of end up, you know, intersecting, and they're both kind of finding answers from the war times. I don't consider myself a complete newbie when it comes to historical fiction. It's definitely not my top genre, but I probably read 1 or 2 historical fictions at least every month. They just don't always center around World War I and II, so I would consider myself fairly new to wartime historical fictions. What I love about them and what I loved about this book is that it's so, I think, easy to get an emotional story. Obviously, when times were so hard for so many people, whether it was at home when things were going on, or whether it was family members who were fighting in the war and then not coming home or coming back injured or whatever it was, there are so many stories to tell that are just so powerful. And being someone who loves emotional stories, I find it really easy to get, you know, connected to stories like that. And so what I loved about this book is the characters, and both of these main characters' stories were emotional. And, you know, by the end of a 500-page book, I feel like you kind of have to be connected to the characters. If not, then the author did something very wrong. But in this case, that was done very well, and I loved the characters. I did sometimes get a little bit confused between the two perspectives. Like when I was in the middle of a chapter, I would forget which one I was reading from because they were both young women. Their voices sounded pretty similar to me, so I think I maybe would have benefited from the author, you know, differentiating the two voices a little bit more. And then this being the second spy book I've read within a short amount of time. I just read Imposter Syndrome by Kathy Wang, which is a very different story, very different setting, and very different type of spy. I think I'm realizing that, like, spies are not my favorite thing to read about. And what I am more interested in, specifically around war times, is like code breakers and more intelligence focused people, if that makes sense. So I'm actually really interested in this author's newest book, I think it is, called The Rose Code. And after reading this, I really want to read that, because anything that I've read or watched that has to do with code breaking, I am all about. I'm thinking like The Imitation Game, which is a movie. I read a book called The Woman Who Smashed Codes, which is a nonfiction book, and I just loved both of those. I think code breaking and decoding ciphers is so interesting and fun, and I think I would like a book written by this author about that. I think I would like that more than this, because being a spy is obviously about, you know, deception and like social dynamics and being witty and clever in a way that I'm just not. But code breaking is a lot more like finding patterns and doing things analytically, which is a lot more how my brain works. So all that to say, I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna give it 4 stars, but I think that The Rose Code, or a very similar book just centering around code breaking, could be the ticket, could be my 5-star historical fiction. So with that checked off, I'm going to move on to my next book. I don't know which one I'm gonna pick yet, but I think I'm in the mood for a thriller. So I think I'm gonna go with one of those that's on my TBR, and we'll let you know when I'm into one of those and have something else to share. All right, I said I was in the mood for a thriller, and I really was. I just flew through the entire thing of The Last Mrs Parrish by Liv Constantine, which may sound deceiving because I'm actually gonna say that I did not like it. And I'm a little confused because I'm not exactly sure what exactly I didn't like. Like, there's nothing I can point my finger to that was like, I didn't like this trope or this reveal or anything like that. I just feel like I've read this book 100 times. And I don't mean like literally read this book. I've never read this book before, but I feel like I've read this story over and over again. It's a domestic thriller. It's about this woman who decides that she wants to become Mrs. Parrish, who is this wealthy woman, has this amazingly rich husband and this life and whatever, and our main character decides she wants that, so she starts befriending that woman and like infiltrating her life in order to take her place. And this did nothing that surprised me just because I've read that story before. I don't love domestic thrillers to begin with because I do feel like they are predictable and all the same, and this just kind of proved that to me. I'm sure that if this was the very first domestic thriller that I ever picked up, I would have liked it. And then any other book that I read after this that did the same thing, I would fault that book. You know what I mean? But it just so happens that because I'm reading this book after I've read all those other stories, I feel like this is the book that is getting penalized because of that. So I'm a little bit iffy on how to rate this and recommend it because of that. If that is your jam, if you do love stories like that and that synopsis sounds like exactly what you like, then you'll probably like it. But at the same time, again, I can't point to anything in this book and say that it was so shocking or surprising or like good or different about it. It just was what it was. Deciding between 2 and 3 stars right now, to be honest. I'll probably look at some other reviews, see if other people are really liking it for what it is, and if that's the case, I'll probably go with 3 stars because it's more of a me problem than a book problem. But if I see reviews of like everyone saying, yeah, this is doing exactly what all those other domestic thrillers do, then I don't know, I'll give it 2 stars. So bummed that I didn't like this story in particular, but I did enjoy reading a thriller at this moment, which is interesting. Even though I didn't like this thriller, I could tell that I'm kind of craving thrillers right now. So I'm glad I still have one other one on the TBR. I think I actually have to pick up Last Year in Havana, is that what it's called? Or Next Year in Havana? The other historical fiction, because that is due back at my library the soonest. So I think I'll be picking that up next. If anything changes, I'll let you know, and I will keep you updated as I keep on reading. Everyone, I just finished Next Year in Havana, and so I want to talk about it. This is a historical fiction book. Like many of the books I've been reading lately, it is told in 2 different timelines and from 2 different main character perspectives. First is a young woman named Marisol who has a grandmother who is from Cuba, and kind of her grandmother's last wish is for her remains to be brought to Cuba after she dies and for her ashes to be spread there. And so Marisol is going on that trip to Cuba to do that and to ultimately, you know, learn more about her grandmother and her ancestry. And then in the second perspective, we are following her grandmother as a young woman in Cuba. This book honestly was a lot. It focused very heavily on Cuban politics, which I didn't expect going in, and it really was a lot to read about. And I didn't know really anything going into this book about, you know, Cuban politics. So it was, to a certain extent, educational. I mean, it definitely was educational, but it also made this book very heavy. And there was so much talk in here between family members and between love interests about political views. And there were a lot of discussions between these characters of, can you still have a relationship with somebody if you do have differing political views? And where do these issues stop being political and start being real life? And I thought that discussion and that part was extremely relevant. I mean, I think all of us can relate these past few years to having family members or friends or whoever who we differ in political views with. And for a lot of us, or for all of us, I think there is a certain point where politics are no longer politics. You know, we're talking about human rights and human lives, life or death decisions and situations. And it's very heavy and difficult to make those related decisions of, okay, when do I cut someone out of my life? Or when do the politics become more than just politics? When do they affect these relationships? So I think I'm going to stick with that of, I enjoyed how relevant that was and how educational this book was, but it was just a lot. I'm very glad that I was able to also listen to this on audio. I went ahead and purchased the audiobook on Libro FM in addition to reading the physical library book, just because it was kind of dense at parts and very emotional and kind of a lot for me to psych myself up to read. So now that I finished it, looking back, I think it's a 3-star. I think I can appreciate the great parts of it, and I love that there are people who absolutely love this book. But from an enjoyment aspect, I don't think I can give it more than a 3, because do I want to reread this book? Not really. So I have just kind of interesting feelings about it. Would I recommend it? I would, but I think you just have to know all of what I just said going into it. Know that you're getting into a political and heavy book here. It's not just It's not just a woman learning about, you know, the fun parts of her grandmother's history. So very interesting and not what I expected, but this book has to go back to the library now, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that today. Let's see, let's talk about some other things going on in my life right now. It's been a couple of days since I've been back on here, but yesterday I was at Target and I picked up actually my perfect planner. I'm a very big planner person. I'm a very big write things down person. I love, you know, paper notebooks and things like that. And I was at Target just browsing, and I really like this planner because it has all monthly spreads. Let's see what I can get this to focus on. So it has all monthly spreads and it doesn't have weekly. So it goes straight from July's month to August, and then obviously through all the months for a year. And then after the last month, which is June of 2022, it goes into a whole bunch of pages of just notes. So really after those monthly calendars, it's just like a notebook, and it has a whole bunch of pages free for notes, and I love that. This is my perfect planner. All I really need is a monthly spread where I can fit everything in. I plan to use this for bookish stuff, so like planning my booktube videos, planning readathons, planning my TBRs, my monthly TBRs, my readathon TBRs, whatever. And then I also am planning on using this for Bookstagram, which is news in itself. I started a Bookstagram account, which is something I was very nervous to do because I do not consider myself artistic or creative or visually inclined in the least. So it's a bit out of my comfort zone to try to take, you know, aesthetic pictures for Instagram. But it seemed like it was time to do that. Instagram is definitely the biggest platform for books, in my opinion. There are just so many people on there, and so I feel like it's a good tool for growth for myself. I mean, in terms of, you know, platform growth, but also personal growth. Always good to try new things and try new hobbies. I figured this planner would help me stay organized. Very excited to have this, and all of my fellow paper planner people I know will feel me in my excitement. So let's see, is that it for regular updates? Back to the books. I only have 2 books left. I have The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave and 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and I own both of these books, so no more library books to deal with at the moment. I think the one I'm gonna do next is The Last Thing He Told Me, because honestly, I just have a feeling that I'm gonna love this book so much and I wanna leave it for last. So that's the plan. I will be back when I have an update on this book here. Hopefully I come back and say I love it. Okay, I just finished The Last Thing He Told Me. Actually, I finished it yesterday. This was a really quick read. I ended up getting it on audio through Scribd, and so it was like an 8-hour audiobook, and listening on 2 times speed. It only took me 4 hours to get through. So it was a really good listening experience because it kind of flew by, and the story itself I think had a good pace and everything. I'm a little mediocre about how I felt about the story itself. Hold on. Okay. Oh, say hello. Hi, buddy. Okay, he's getting hungry, so I'll try to make this quick. But the story itself I thought was okay. The synopsis and the beginning of this story are pretty intriguing. So what this is about is this woman who is married, and one day she hears a doorbell ring at her door, and she goes to the front door, and it's this little like 12-year-old girl or something who hands her a note and says it's from her husband. And she opens the note and all it says is protect her. And so our main character then has to figure out what does this note mean? What's going on with her husband? Why did he give this note to this little girl to deliver to her? All this stuff. So that's really intriguing, and obviously could go in like a lot of different directions. It went into a direction that I found to be less and less interesting as the story went on. I kind of just got bored with the chase, and there's kind of a lot of characters and just like convoluted family and people dynamics and all that stuff. So it was okay. I'm gonna give it 3 stars. There was definitely nothing in it for it to be like a new favorite thriller or anything like that. I've been seeing a lot of people reading this book, but I haven't seen a lot of reviews. Maybe I've just been kind of blocking them out because I didn't want to, you know, see or read reviews before I read the book. But now I am interested to hear what other people think about this book, to see if I missed something. Is it more interesting to other people than it was to me? But as always with new releases, I like to be, you know, kind of in the know and have read it. So I'm glad to have read this one and to know my thoughts. So that leaves me with 1 book left. So all I have left is 7 Days in June, and I'm so excited to read this book. I don't know what it is. I've seen great reviews, I guess, is one thing. And the synopsis and what I've heard described about this book is that it's emotional. I love emotional romances. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into this, and I will, of course, let you know my thoughts when I'm done. And I'm back with my final update. I have finished 7 Days in June. Before I get to my thoughts on this book, I want to share some recent book mail that I've gotten because I've gotten a lot of really cute and exciting stuff. So the first set of things I got is actually for the readathon that I'm hosting in just a couple weeks. If you missed that announcement video, I will link it below and in the cards, but I am hosting a readathon with Jacqueline and Ashley's Little Library called Thrill Till the Weekend. It is a thriller-based readathon, thriller, horror, mystery, true crime, whatever you want to read, kind of within that realm. But for that readathon, we are doing a buddy read, and it's for this book called Infinite by Brian Freeman. And so I ordered this book and just got it in the mail. It's a thriller book with a little bit of a sci-fi element, as far as I understand, something with like parallel realities and universes. I don't really know much more about the synopsis, but that is right up my alley, so I'm so excited to read this. We'll be reading it September 1st through the 3rd, which is the dates of that readathon. And also for that readathon, Jacqueline created some amazing merch. So I ordered 2 crew neck sweatshirts. Crew neck sweatshirts are my new thing. I love them. They're so comfortable. They're so cute. I wear them in the summer. Of course, I wear them in the winter. So I'm excited to have them. But the first one just says Thrill Till the Weekend. So this is like the logo of the readathon, and I got it in this like denim navy blue color. So that's super cute. I think this one comes in this blue color and then also like a dark forest green. And then I also got her design for Netflix and Thrill. So it looks really similar, but it says Netflix and Thrill. So I love it. And this is obviously a gray crew neck sweatshirt. I think this one comes in gray and white. You will definitely be seeing me wear both of these throughout the readathon, September 1st through the 3rd. There is still time to order if you want to participate in the readathon and have merch to match. There's also t-shirts as well as like mugs if you're into that. So that's all for that readathon. I also put in a couple orders for bookmarks. So recently I joined Bookstagram, and on Bookstagram there are so many really cute bookish accessory creators like bookmarks and book sleeves and other book like shirts and stuff like that. So I started ordering from them because I can't resist. But I started with a bunch of bookmarks from the shop Gigi and Bo. Let's see, that is what like the logo looks like, and this is all of the social media information. I will of course have everything also linked down below. So I ordered from a few different collections that she has. First collection she has is these book stack bookmarks, which are just cute and colorful. She has all kinds of color combinations. You can also get it personalized to have your favorite book titles on the spine if you're interested. I just left it blank because I think it's cute. And then I ordered from 3 other collections. So the first one I ordered from her Friends collection for the show Friends. So she has these bookmarks that she makes for every character. I just got Rachel and Joey because those are my 2 favorites. And then I also got this one that has like the door to the girl's apartment with a frame. And then all of the bookmarks, you can either get them laminated or not. I just left them as plain cardstock because they're nice and thick, and then you can add a tassel or not to all of them. So some of them I did, some of them I didn't, but these are my Friends bookmarks and I love them. There are, again, more that I didn't even purchase. And then I ordered from her Schitt's Creek collection. And again, she has all kinds of character bookmarks. So I got one for Alexis, which says, "Love that journey for me." One for Patrick, which says, "Simply the best," because that's the song he sings. and then one for David, of course, that says, "Oh my God." And these are just, they're just so freaking cute. And these I got all just plain cardstock, no laminating and no tassels. And then the last collection that I ordered from is her Taylor Swift collection. I love Taylor Swift, and she's not bookish, but why wouldn't I want Taylor Swift bookmarks? So for this collection, she has all of the different eras of Taylor Swift, all the albums. So I ordered from her 1989 collection because that's my favorite album, and her Red collection because I really liked this quote the best. So for 1989, I got that red lip classic thing that you like, and for Red, I have Happy, Free, Confused, and Lonely at the same time. And honestly, how cute. I hope that you can see these. And these ones I got just plain cardstock, not laminated, but I did add the tassels. So that's what I ordered from Gigi and Bo. She did also throw in one freebie bookmark, so it's just this like 90s, 80s, 90s pattern. I did not need 10 new bookmarks because I'm never reading 10 books at a time, but I think they're super fun to kind of collect and have in my collection. Then I placed one more order from my friend Catherine, who makes art. She makes bookish merch and whatnot. I will link her Instagram and Etsy shop below. Catherine is somebody I've known through the bookish internet for about a year. She lives in the UK, and I've been meaning to order from her Etsy shop for a while, but while I was on this kind of ordering spree, I was like, oh yeah, I should order from Catherine. So she has a couple different things. So the first thing that I ordered is this little like notebook sketchbook thing. So it has pages that are just blank, and it's pretty small, as you can see, compared to my hand. But I am a sucker for cute little notebooks and things to like jot things down on and in. So I will definitely be using this for something. And it just has this really cute stack of books on it, and this is, I believe, Catherine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is like a stamp that Catherine made instead of printed, so I think that's pretty cool. And on the back it has her information on it again. But how fun, and something I don't have. And then I also ordered her one of her kind of staple bookmarks. This is the same thing, I believe it's a stamp and not printed. And then the last thing I ordered from her is the thing I am the most excited about. Catherine will hand paint a bookmark inspired by any book cover that you want. She had a few examples on her shop of like her favorite books that she made bookmarks, and so naturally I had to ask her to make one for my favorite book, which is Slay by Brittany Morris, because like, look at this book cover, it is so pretty and I love this book, and she knocked it out of the park. So this is the bookmark she made. I want to like make sure you get the full effect, but as you can see, it is like super true to the book cover, and she hand painted this. Let's see, I need this to focus so you can see the close-up, but I mean, that is way more talent than I have. And I'm so appreciative to have this and that she made it for me, and it was affordable, just incredible. So get yourself a bookmark inspired by your favorite book, especially if it has like a really cool and pretty cover. She will absolutely do it justice, and like, I want to use this, but I don't want to use it. I mean, it is laminated, so it will definitely hold up more than just my cardstock bookmarks, but I do not want anything to happen to this. So it's just a prized possession at this point. 10 out of 10 for all these things. I'm so happy with my orders. But anyway, let's talk about my thoughts on 7 Days in June. So this is a romance book about these two people who 15 years in the past had met each other and spent 7 days getting to know each other. And then at the end of that 7 days, something happened that caused them to go their separate ways, live their separate lives. And now they are meeting again 15 years later and get another 7 days together. And I was told that this was an emotional romance, and I'm so glad that it definitely was. This book goes really deep. Both of these characters have all kinds of struggles that they're dealing with and issues and inner demons. They have things they're dealing with in the present. They have things from their past that they haven't dealt with. The woman in here has a daughter who, of course, she takes care of. And I just can't express how much I love reading about complex, mature characters who have things that they're working out within themselves on top of this romance that they're trying to cultivate. And so this very much had that. And then the romance between these two I also really loved. I think that I do really like the trope of childhood friends becoming lovers or even childhood acquaintances or whatever it is. I just like that history and that past. And I think that it really leads to a prolonged actual relationship versus like insta love where it's not believable. You know, why would they be in love? So I love this past that they have together. It's a little bit steamy in my opinion. As someone who doesn't really love reading the sexy scenes, this got to be a little much for me sometimes, but I know that that's a huge selling point for some people, so I'll mention it. It didn't take away from my enjoyment by any means, but I really have nothing else to complain about for this book, or nothing else I was wanting. It's a pretty short book. It's like just over 325-ish pages, but I felt like I got a lot out of this book. The story was well done. The two different kind of timelines you're following were well done. You also get both of their perspectives, and even through all of that, I don't feel like I missed anything in the story, which is a testament to the story and the book and the writing. And let's see, what else can I say about it? I mean, nothing else, because I obviously want you to read it. I don't want to tell you all about it, but I'm just really glad that I heard about this book. I don't think it's overhyped or very hyped really at all, at least that I've seen so far, and so I would love to tell you to read it and everyone to read it and kind of get it to that more popular level. But Reese definitely picked a winner here, and I'm really glad that I'm ending this video on such a high note. So with that, I guess to recap before my baby completely wakes up, I would say this is moderately successful. Kind of a surprise, I think, that my two probably least favorite books that I read here were the two thrillers, but also not that surprising because I think thrillers have to be really special in order to be, you know, 5 stars. So a 2-star, The Last Mrs Parrish, and a 3-star, The Last Thing You Told Me. Those are both kind of meh, wouldn't really recommend. The two historical fictions were both pretty successful, I would say. Next Year in Havana, 3 stars, taught me a lot, but wasn't my favorite story. Whereas The Alice Network, I was definitely interested in. I loved the story and the characters, and very much want to read more from Kate Quinn. And then the winner of the video, 7 Days in June. Who knew I would love a romance so much? I did, because it was emotional, but still super glad nonetheless. So I love the range in ratings and genres and everything. I feel like it was a really good mix. I'm excited to do this video in the future for other book clubs. I think Reese's book club is good for now. I've read a good number of those, at least the ones that I'm most interested in, so I would like to branch out. So let me know what celebrity book clubs you either follow or might be interested in finding out if the books picked are actually good. I've heard of a couple new ones recently that I'm really excited to check out. So look forward to this series continuing. Otherwise, I don't have anything else for you, so I will leave you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.